What's up, everybody? I'm going to give it just a couple minutes because I want to see who can jump on and join us. So we'll give it a couple minutes and get started. I'm a little late to the party, so I apologize. All right, so we've got a couple people on here. Hey, Sydney, how are you? Um, we'll go ahead and get started. Got a couple people on, so we'll just go ahead and run. It's been a little while since we've actually had a very specific feature on CBD. We've talked a lot about politics and the happenings of 911 and things like that, but we haven't really gotten into any education in a long time. So I figured today would be a good day to jump back into that. Um, today's CBD market is evolving, and it seems like it's all sort of in an effort right now to capture the recreational consumer. It's not so much concerned with the typical medical ailments. There's very, very, very heavy focus right now on these synthetic THC alternatives. So we'll talk about that. There's even some legal D9 products that people have found loopholes through. So we'll talk about those too. Um, what's good for you, what's safe for you, how do you get the best value? Just stay tuned. We're going to cover all of that today. So please stay tuned. If you have questions, please post them in the comments. I'll look for them. I'll try to answer them as soon as I see them. If I don't see them until the end, then we'll answer them at the end. So I think the first thing that's important to do here is remember that we used to cover this stuff back when CBD was first kicking off. So I'll go ahead and recap it. So with CBD, we really have two, maybe three main types of CBD. We have full spectrum, which is all present cannabinoids. It could be a variety of different things, but THC is present. The technical definition that most people observe of a full spectrum CBD is that both CBD and THC are present. The waters get a little muddy the further down the rabbit hole you go, but for the sake of argument, we'll leave it there. Then you also have CBD isolate. CBD isolate is no THC whatsoever, usually 99.5 or above in quality. So that's what you kind of look for there. And then you do have broad spectrum, but I don't really recognize that. I just really feel like broad spectrum is diluted full spectrum. So I recognize it, even though people use it. For those of you who are wondering what broad spectrum is, it's essentially full spectrum without THC, but the minors are usually really low. Whereas you might have a 5% minor cannabinoid like CBG present in a full spectrum. You're probably not going to have anything but like half a percentage to 3/4 of a percentage point for the minor cannabinoids that are found in broad spectrum. So, really, I mean, even though they do have other cannabinoids to potentially engage entourage with, it's not likely, and I mean, I personally have never been impressed with broad spectrum. So, enough beating that horse. I will say that I have tried a lot of the D8 products that are out. And for those of you who aren't aware of what D8 is, we'll kind of start here. So, what's been happening is that in this industry, we've seen a couple things. First and foremost, we saw the emergence of CBD products, and that resulted in this massive race to the bottom for all of these extractors. We had a big brokerage war, much like the PPE thing that was going on, and then we had the PPE thing kind of knocked CBD on its heels, and then over the time, we've all been at home. it started to make a comeback, and now what we've seen is not just a shift back into CBD, but a pivot away from CBD into more recreational style use of hemp. This is evident in what you may or may not have heard recently called Delta 8. Now, Delta 8 is essentially chemically altered CBD. Really, that's what it is. It's two hydrogen molecules different from Delta 9 THC. What does that mean? That means that you will fail a drug test if you use Delta 8. So just because it wins a technicality in terms of legality, it does not translate into a win for you in the drug test department. So let's be 100% clear. You're not going to pass a drug test if you're taking Delta 8. Fair? Um, so Delta 8, we talked about briefly, chemically altered CBD. What does it do for you, right? So Delta 8 is going to be psychotic. It's not antipsychotic like CBD. So if you take it in a large enough dose, you will feel euphoria. Typically, it's a sedating euphoria. Delta 8 does have some pretty incredible properties. They did a study with kids age 4 to 14 who were diagnosed with cancer. And they started giving the control, their placebo, and then the actual patients that were given Delta 8 were given Delta 8 2 hours before their chemo, and every 4 hours thereafter for 12 hours. And the kids that took the chemo had zero, kids that took the Delta 8 prior to their chemo had zero side effects from the chemo, meaning they didn't get sick, they weren't nauseous, they weren't throwing up, they still had their appetite. They felt good. So it's pretty exciting thing for cannabis research. The problem with that is it is a synthetic. So when I say synthetic, what I mean is that it's not naturally occurring. So it's not like you can go and although genetics may be at work, it's not like you can go and pull a plant out of the ground right now, a hemp plant that's rich in Delta 8. Like you're not going to go extract it. It's just ridiculously expensive. It's like trying to make THC products from hemp. It's just really inefficient. So um, that said, it is synthetic. And why synthetics not good for you is your body doesn't necessarily always know how to process synthetics. They don't absorb well. They're a little volatile in terms of predictability. So just something to remember if you're going to take Delta 8, I would start on the low end of the dosing and I would very slowly titrate up to make sure that you're getting into something. Now, there is also Delta 9, and just so that y'all are aware, Delta 9 refers to the THC that you are familiar with, the weed, the pot, the stuff, all that. That's Delta 9 THC is what you're familiar with. There's also a newly emerging cannabinoid, Delta 10. And so I wanted to get to 10 before I explain this. So Delta 8, if you want to break it down in this case, would be more like an indica for you. If you're familiar with the difference between indica and sativa. And then Delta 10 would be more energizing and more like a sativa. So if you're trying to decide between the two of those, that's kind of going to be your indicator. If you'd like more energy and be upbeat, be able to probably function a little bit better, that's going to be 10. If you want to chill out, be lazy and stuff, you probably want to go with like a Delta 8. The best of both worlds, go Delta 9 if you're in a recreational legal state. Moving on, some of the other emerging cannabinoids. So these are really trending right now. THCA, which actually is named in the Farm Bill as part of the Delta 9 summation of what contributes to the 0.3% limit. So a function of THCA and Delta 9 but cannot be more than 0.3% THC. So while that is a very novel cannabinoid, it is included in that calculation of the Farm Bill. So we're not going to see that really as prevalent in non-recreational states. THCO, on the other hand, is not included in that and is sort of one of the other loopholes here. And that's a Delta 8, Delta 10. You might be asking, like, how are these psychoactive compounds legal? And the answer is that in the 2018 Farm Bill, uh, there was verbiage in place, like I just said, that defined what THC was. So they say you have an allowable percentage of 0.3% um, by weight of your product can be THC. So what these guys decided to start doing is manufacturing product that accomplished the same thing as Delta 9, but wasn't under that umbrella of definition. Because of the way that it was worded, there's almost a pretty cool move by the cannabis industry as a whole, even though it doesn't, it's not a living, breathing person, but it's, made up of them. And I feel like it's kind of cool to see these idiots who claim that they know that it's bad for us have the wool pulled right over their eyes and you can't do nothing about it. So it's kind of cool to see cannabis winning, even though it may not last forever. So THCO, I was getting into next, is what's called the Delta 9 analog. It's actually thought to be about 2 times more potent than Delta 9. So if you are somebody that, is a tank and your name is Frank, THCO might be your go. THCV is interesting, and it's actually an appetite suppressant. It's very good at relieving anxiety, but the appetite suppression is really interesting um, from cannabis as well. And then we get into the standard, what I refer to as like the CBD cannabinoids. You have CBG, which is an antiviral. So if you have the opportunity right now to be taking some CBG in addition to whatever else you're taking, that'd be really wise. It's also a great pain reliever. And then you have CBN, which is more of a sedative. Again, it's actually oxidized THC. Um, and but you're not going to pop on a drug test from that because it's no longer THC, it's CBN. So different molecular structure, all that. So kind of want to hard stop there for a second. So it hasn't been all fun and games. These things have come out, uh, but what it's also made difficult for is a lot of these event hosts like SSNE and Champs have struggled with whether or not to allow them at their shows, and in a lot of places they've decided not let them. In fact, we did a show in Vegas in July, and even at that show, we had to keep a placard out on our table that basically waived their liability for anything that happened as a result of it in case the feds came in and raided us or the city came in and raided us or something like that. So it's kind of a take your own risk when you're getting into that stuff. And a lot of, just to be honest, guys, a lot of these law enforcement officers, they don't know the difference. So, and Delta 8 smells like it. If you have flour that's sprayed with it, it's going to look like it and smell like it. If you have vape carts, you're not even supposed to have those anymore. So you get in trouble for that. And vape carts, just are considered manufactured substances. So you may not eventually get charged with it, but you're getting arrested for a felony right off the bat. So, and that's in Texas. So, be careful with the stuff you're riding around with. Personally, I have started to enjoy um, ingestibles a lot more than anything else. I don't care to smoke anymore. As I quit smoking cigarettes, I really didn't want to keep putting smoke in my body. I felt like I've done that for long enough in my life. So I've really turned and become more of an RSO kind of guy. If you're not familiar with RSO is Rick Simpson oil. There's a variety of potencies, but essentially what it is it's like, for those of you layman's, it's pretty much like very undistilled full spectrum CBD, but it's THC instead, and both CBD and THC depending on what variety you get. But I personally prefer the higher THC sativa RSOs. From time to time, there are tablets called Pro Tabs. Those things are phenomenal. And then as far as Delta 8 is concerned, personally, there's a brand I like. It's called Delta Works. Be up if you want me to give you that information on where to get that. And then the other would be Green Relief. Um, and quality control. So if you guys are interested in any of those, let me know, and I'll send you a link to those sites, and you can pick out what you want. I know that quality control and green relief also have like cereal bars and other ways that you can take it, not just carts and ingestible, or not just carts and smokables. They have ingestibles as well. So there's a there's like a lot of misconception around like what works and whether it's good for you, um and the truth is there's a lot of like lacking research, just like a lot of you are hopefully questioning a lot of stuff that's going on right now. You should also be questioning, what are you putting in your body? What are you smoking? What are you ingesting? What are you rubbing on yourself to make sure that it's safe for you? And that ultimately that you know what you're doing and you're taking. I think it's um, of a great amount of negligence that people are just grabbing and inhaling whatever cart they get their hands on. But then again, they've been doing that in the black market for a very long time. So what do things like Delta 8 mean for non-legal states in the long run? It seems like that's only beginning to unfold. California just passed a measure that makes Delta 8 and all other related manufactured uh, THC types rolled under that Farm Bill zero point 0.3 threshold. So why'd they do that? I mean, it's anyone's guess until you're that person, but from the outside looking in, it's pretty obvious. They don't want to compete with, or the recreational cannabis didn't come this far to be defeated or take a backseat to artificial synthetic products. I mean, there's no question in my mind. There's no replacing whole plant cannabis. Just there's not. You can make a powerful synthetic all you want, but I'll still take good old Delta 9 and converted THCA all day long. So don't really know where the market goes from here. There's a lot of people who think that the Delta 8 varieties are sunsetting, and then there's a lot of people who think that they're going to be here for a while. And to be honest, I have no issue with it being here. I think it's great for non-rec states. I think for people who live in those states, it's something that's better than nothing. I don't know how long it's going to last, but at least it's better than spice. It's better than a lot of these other things we've seen over the years. And especially if you're trying to stay off of prescription drugs and things like that, is definitely better than that. If you've gotten in on the Delta 810s and all the THC varieties, and good on you. Just it's going to be interesting to see how the early adopters adapt to whatever happens next. So we really have kind of hit a point where I don't have a whole lot else. So I wanted to just kind of give it a second, see if there's any questions. I don't think we have a whole lot to go. Well, we don't have anything to go through. So yeah, I think it. All in all, the market is moving towards decriminalization, and I think that's the right place for it to go. And you don't understand the difference between legalization and decriminalization. Legalization, with legislation means that, relatively speaking, you can buy it, you can sell it, you can use it, you can grow it, whatever have you. Decriminalization, on the other hand, means before you do all that other stuff, you pull all the people out of jail for marijuana related offenses. You pull all the you give them their lives back. You give them some restitution. You're going to make it legal. Then you have to have a fund set aside to get these people out of jail and back on their feet, because it's not fair for them to have their lives ruined and you change your mind. It's only fair. And for those of you who really have issue with that, I mean, I would ask you to think, what if somebody in your family was peddling something that you've been brainwashed to call a drug, but it's really medicine, when everything else that you've been called medicine is a drug. So, um, there's not a whole lot that you can rely on these days, to be honest, and there's not a whole lot that we can trust these days. But the one thing that I think that we can trust and we can look to are the things of old, the things that have stood the test of time, the plants that are on this earth that were put here by God to help us. I think we should be able to use them. So, and that extends to psilocybin as well. Um, microdosing that is life changing. I would highly recommend you look into that as well. So, Matt, yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for tuning in too. It's what we want to do is help you understand what's going on, what you're using, what the buzz is about. So keep the questions coming. Send me messages if you have questions. I don't think we have any questions here. So as long as we don't have any questions here, I'm going to go ahead and turn to. Thanks, guys, for watching. If you watched, and look forward to any questions and kicking next time. So, till then, have a blessed week, and leave it all out there on the floor. Talk to you guys soon.